Sukui Garvode, and welcome to Cassus Café. This week, I am here with Kli'nah,
Hello!
Captain,
Hey.
and Tykoth. And we're going to be talking about Ahsoka Episode 5 this week. And we thought last week was kind of baller. This week...
y'all did, I didn't. I think it was pretty meh.
This week, well, see, this is where... Okay, baller is... maybe not the term I meant.
Eventful,
yes. It was very intriguing. I'll say that.
So last week things started to actually get interesting. How about that?
Yeah. This week is going to be even more interesting, I feel. In diversity of opinions.
I'm going to be walking into in this podcast.
Me too. So let's start off with initial thoughts, and then we'll dive right in. I guess I kind of want to go last, so let's go with Tykoth first.
Oh man, all right. I'm feeling kind of spicy. I absolutely love the things that are like very manipulative and targeted to make me love it. But I'm also very angry at things as well. So I'm very divided because there are things I wanted, and I know this is dumb. Just because you wanted it doesn't mean it should happen. But I very much wanted them, and they didn't happen. And I also just don't love the approach of some things. But there are some like wish fulfillment things in there that I can't get away from that I just really liked as well. So I'm like very divided on this episode in general.
I feel you. Kli'nah. After she's done yawning.
I enjoyed this episode. I liked most of it. But after watching it, it made me think, man, I'm just really not that interested in this show. Like, I like this episode. I liked parts of this episode. But, like, I'm not going to go back and rewatch this whole thing. I might rewatch a scene or two.
She's like not connected to any of these characters.
Yeah.
And has no emotional stakes in any of them. Because she hasn't seen Rebels. So
And no one's cool enough.
You know what though? I can honestly kind of agree with that, and I have seen Rebels. Maybe not.
Yeah,
so
I can elaborate
maybe,
more on that maybe at the end.
Maybe not quite so
but
strongly, but I feel it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kat.
I have mixed feelings about this one. I emotionally really liked it. I've always loved the prequels. Always felt like Hayden Christensen got a lot of unnecessary hate back in the day. I think the community has now been around long enough and potentially been enlightened from the Disney sequels. And now they love him, and now it's nice to see him once again back in live action. Again, you know, he was in the Obi-Wan show. Granted, he is
But this
his
is real
facial
hate.
presence was not very much, but he was there. Because Vader, think about Vader is that he has to be tall, and Hayden is not tall like OG Vader, so they've had to do a lot of in and out with him. That said, it was great to see him here. I loved it. I was not expecting to be dropped back into the Clone Wars. That even got me more like tugged on. At the same time, part of me is like, does this make sense though? Are they just twisting something to get nostalgia out of me? So, so on one hand, it's everything I ever wanted. On the other hand, it's like, but does it make sense? And I haven't really made up my mind yet.
Maybe we can find out today.
Yeah, so my initial thoughts, I felt pretty much lockstep with Captain, interestingly enough. I hate the Clone Wars, we're not going to get into it. So, for me, you would think that I wouldn't care or enjoy this episode as much as I did, but when we were in the flashbacks, when we were in the Anakin stuff, I just had a grin on my face watching it through with every time Anakin was on screen. and he did a good job. Hayden did a really good job as Anakin.
He did. He was very good.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with Josh from Dumb Nerds, because I watched it along with their watch parties, where he said this was like Hayden's best performance as Anakin, and I kind of agree with that. But that doesn't mean what we were given is like that impactful to the story, to the characters, or whatnot. He did a really good job, and it was really fun seeing him and kind of the artistic license they have with him flashing back and forth from Vader and whatnot. That was really neat. But I just similar to Captain, I just was thinking over it.
Does it fit here?
Does it fit? Like, what is this whole thing about? Why is, like, I still don't understand what he was technically teaching her.
Yeah, there was no real purpose.
I was gonna ask about that later.
Yeah.
When we got to it, because I was trying to figure
We're
it
all on the
out.
same page. I guess this is it, right? So
Yeah,
thanks for coming, everybody. And
It was great,
It
but it had
sounds-
no point.
Yeah, it sounds like we are kind of all similar. It's really fun nostalgia bait and fun to rewatch just as a pure gloss of just fun action and, you know, seeing Anakin and
yeah,
all that stuff. But otherwise, it felt very hollow. You know?
Mhm. And honestly, once
I'm not sure if "hollow" is the right word, but I understand what you're trying to say. It just
it kind of
maybe shoehorned.
the parts
Yeah.
without Anakin in it specifically, like that contrast when you go back without him again, you're like, oh, I miss Anakin. Like,
Yeah.
that felt like it had a lot of heart to it, and then all of a sudden you're like back into the show, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, but that gets ahead a little bit. So
Yeah. But, and then the rest of the episode, it was whatever. We'll get into it in
Like I said, I
more
have a lot
specifics. Yeah.
thoughts I want to share, but I didn't want to divulge all of them in the intro summary.
So, all right, so let's go ahead and dive right in then. The first few moments is these really long, eerie establishing shots that I absolutely loved, honestly.
Me too.
Very pretty, very slow, very, like, I really enjoyed the setup. It's something I feel like a lot of these Star Wars shows, maybe except for Andor, is missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, man, this is what The Mandalorian season 3 needed to like
Yeah, it needed
slow
to slow
down
down.
the show a little bit.
Yeah.
A little, it needed a lot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It's like, I feel like Mando season 3 needed more of these slow things, and Ahsoka needs a little less,
Yes.
just slightly less.
It almost
But-
feels like a knee-jerk reaction to.
Yeah, it's
season
almost
3.
overcompensating.
No,
Yeah.
Ahsoka
And
just needs
I don't
less
even know that
listen to
I don't know that it
characters.
needs faster. I just think it needs more compelling.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Faster doesn't equal that necessarily.
yeah, and I think something, Tykoth, we were talking a little bit right after we watched it, that he might have been implying. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like not a whole lot has happened in 5 episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Like- Like,
And
plot-wise.
it doesn't need to, but like not much has happened character wise either.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I would like to make a comment about that.
Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
It wouldn't have to feel like it needs to get going if it was only 8 episodes. Like, I'd be perfectly fine with the
Yeah.
pace that we're at if this was a 24 episode.
For
Or
sure.
even a 16. Yeah,
Yeah.
Or yeah, but it's 8 episodes, and it's like, oh,
Mhm.
we're 5 episodes in, still haven't seen Thrawn.
Yeah, or a 12 even. Like, I think Andor was 12.
yeah.
And if this was 12, then I would feel a little bit better about it too, yeah.
Not to mention, you get the first 2 on the opening day. So it's
Yeah.
like, you even have less time to try to, like, watch it as something you would watch on television.
It doesn't help either because Andor is just as slow paced as this is, if not a little slower, but it still has that more compelling character to it.
Yeah, and I feel like there's way more that happens in Andor, and like there's 3 episode arcs than
Yeah.
has happened in this show so far.
But that show is not what I would call fast by any means.
Exactly. Like,
So,
it's
and it's still yeah.
yeah. It's like Andor is like the quintessential example of what they should do with a Star Wars show. Maybe not the subject matter, maybe not the tone, but the pacing, the length of the season, the length of the episodes, all that kind of stuff. Like they could
3-episode arcs that fall into a singular season's arc.
Sure, I mean that's not necessary, but it also worked for Andor, so it could work for something like this too.
Some of the animated shows were like that as well.
Yeah,
and, both.
Like a few episode arcs here and there. Yeah.
Both shows had multi-episode arcs, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's how most serialized shows are. Yeah.
I would say some of my most memorable ones out from the Clone Wars was the Benevolence arc. I enjoyed that arc. I'm trying to think of a arc from Rebels. I would say probably the one with Ahsoka was when she came in as Fulcrum.
Yeah.
Really
I like the Mortis storyline. That's kind of what I was hoping more for here, but
yeah.
I will say for the kind of give some credit to this plot here. I do think Ahsoka's character feels about right. She feels like we're at a halfway point in the season, which is a little later than we should be right now. But it's like if we had maybe 9 episodes, it would be pretty much right where she should be. Whereas everyone else in the plot overall, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I definitely
her
felt
character
like Ahsoka was a lot better by the time the episode ended.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if
the final scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it makes you wonder, like, did they intentionally make her like monotone, like unlikable in the first few episodes because she had fallen out of what she was supposed to be and she needed this like correction?
Oh, I definitely think they were going for that depressed sort of thing, but it just, you can be depressed and not completely monotone in every way.
Yeah.
Or hyper go depression, like not the middle ground, but like really, really sad. You kind of have to emphasize one or the other.
But
didn't work for me.
But I mean, yeah. So moving on, unless anyone else has something to say about that.
Nah.
Sahara comes out of the ship. She's searching around, and this is starting to get close to the part where I'm like, "Are we really? Did we peg this episode? Are we gonna get a bait and switch?" Because she like goes up. She hears like something behind the pillar or whatever. She goes up and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are they gonna have Ahsoka climbing up the cliff or something?
I thought the same exact thing.
And I'm like, are we seriously gonna have nothing? Like what's going on here? And then the droid shows up and I was like, okay, good, we're safe for now.
More chopper.
We're about to pull out me mallet.
Need more chopper.
Yeah, Chopper was kind of in the background again in this episode. What's up with he's Dave's fan servicing all these other fans. Why can't you service us Chopper fanboys, you know?
Everybody loves Chopper. Everybody. I don't know a single person out there other than Kli'nah who doesn't like Chopper.
I was okay with him in this episode.
Yeah, they didn't do anything.
Yeah,
that's why you liked him.
Well, he's completely obnoxious.
I liked his little uh-oh.
I still believe that if I had watched Rebels, I probably would have liked him more than if the first time I saw him was him being crazy in this show.
Yeah. And then but then
we get to the real stuff.
You get to the real stuff pretty much after the title sequence, Shadow Warrior.
The New Republic is a bunch of idiots.
Yeah.
Beautiful scene.
Yeah, Anakin didn't look quite as corpsey in this scene as he did at the end of the last episode.
It's still like the worst Anakin look, but I will say that like throughout the rest of it, I know you were concerned about that. I felt like it looked great. Like everything else was like really good with him.
Yeah.
Didn't feel any weird uncanny valley.
Nah. It looked really good. I think when they were actually in the Clone Wars flashback stuff, they didn't
the best.
They didn't have as much, if any, like de-aging on him. He just had different hair. And he looked really good there.
Good in his Clone Wars outfit. Which, by the way, it was really awesome to see him wear that battle armor outfit that he had in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
To see live action version of that is just like, yeah, that was clearly fan service, but still, it was like, it's everything I ever wanted.
The entire opening of their discussion, I'm just like flabbergasted and amazed and like falling into the trap of it. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I'm just so ecstatic. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, they're getting me. They're getting me. I'm being manipulated and it's working, but I don't like it. That's what I'm feeling the whole time.
Yeah. Before we get to the Clone Wars stuff, though, they like flashback to Hera and her son Jason and stuff, and I think a particular point here is.
Well, what did you guys think about the lightsaber duel though? Before it
yeah.
At least the start of it.
Oh, I mean that. Was
really cool to see some of his old choreography introduced back in. His little back behind the back twist.
This is what made me happy. I was like, they know how to do lightsaber choreography.
Well, it's also because Hayden was there. He's done it before, and I'm sure he, does it for fun sometimes. So
it feels like his Mustafar sort of sequence.
Yeah, so like in that whole backwards spinny thing that he does was a move he made up, and so he did it again in this show. And it's a really, really neat callback to that.
He did it in Obi-Wan too, but it was really cool here. I love the visuals of it.
Yeah, this felt more like the choreography that I've been wanting for lightsaber.
Yeah.
So,
now,
very happy with it.
This may be, I don't know if it's going to be a tangent or if it's going to be going ahead or whatever, if not anything. But who do you think this is really Anakin? What do you think is happening here? Is this a dream? Is she in the world between worlds? What is going on?
That's kind of one of my major disappointments, I think, is that I don't think it's like very much actually Anakin as like this Force ghost thing. I don't feel like it's that.
No.
I feel like it might be world between worlds, but either way, it's sort of like her own idea of what Anakin is. And I was hoping for it to be actually him and to have like more discussion.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a dream than anything.
Sure
I think it's telling us that death means nothing in Star Wars.
But he's still dead. I mean, they're in the world between worlds, and
something
maybe.
Like that.
And the thing
is, she could be hallucinating.
That's the thing. It's such.
He is passed out.
Yeah. But they heard the lightsaber fighting. It can't just be.
Well,
I think that's just a Force thing.
I think that might have just been her son. I don't know if she actually heard it or not. It's weird. It's very ambiguous.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about the like world between worlds is that it's such a new and ambiguous thing that it's kind of hard to critique, right? Whereas Force Ghosts, we have a lot of like knowledge on now based off previous works, and when they decided to make Force Ghosts actually do stuff in the real world, it kind of opened up a lot of plot holes. Like, what do you mean he can summon lightning? Why didn't he just zap the Emperor when he was after he died on Tatooine? It's like, or whatever or Dagobah. It's like things like that kind of break things. So like the Force Ghosts, like really what they should be is that they can't interact with anything, but they can at least come back and
give
talk
on wisdom.
to you. And give on wisdom, right? Whereas what is the world between worlds? In some ways I think it's been kind of shown from Rebels that it's kind of this outside of space and time.
So supposedly the world between worlds is where the cosmic force resides, and that's like the spiritual realm, and somehow they got to it without dying in Rebels. So it's like implied that maybe she did die, and then Anakin sent her back for some reason.
Could be.
But also she could just be knocked out, and she's just floating there with force stasis sort of idea.
I
Force
don't
healing
think so,
sands.
because they couldn't find her until after she finished her time with Anakin.
Yeah, but that's just kind of like you wake up right after a dream at the most
So you're saying
opportune
that
time,
when
sort of
she's
thing.
knocked out, the sensors on the ships can't detect her? But after she finishes her time with Anakin, all of a sudden she's detectable? I don't buy that.
I don't know. Like I said, I think the biggest flaw of this episode is how vague everything is, and what, like, it's not very comprehensible.
Right, and
Yeah.
that's part of my issue as well. They did this kind of vague thing, and it gave me a nice episode with Anakin and Ahsoka, and that made me happy, but the setup and the circumstances don't quite make sense, and that goes back to that feeling of, did they do this really wonky thing just to manipulate my nostalgia to make me like it?
Yeah.
And I really, really like ambiguous things. I like these sort of don't tell me exactly what it is, but it doesn't, at the same time, it's not like super philosophically deep either. There's not like a lot there to kind of digest. It's just an abstract line, live or die. Okay. I mean,
I figured you
yeah.
might like this episode because of that.
yeah, I'm all about the abstractness of it, but there's not really
I
any
literally was watching
imagery or
this, I'm
any
like-
symbolism or anything to latch on to that like gives me some sort of existential thought.
Okay. But I
Yeah.
was sitting here watching this episode going, I'm pretty sure Tykoth is like really enjoying this episode right now.
I did really enjoy it. And I don't like that I did.
I know, same. I did too. I understand pretty much every flaw it has, but there's just something about the Anakin stuff that I just can't get past. It's just super cool.
It's awesome. It's just awesome on its own.
So
I wish the Clone Wars was in live action.
Yeah. So I might have liked it better. Who knows?
Yeah.
So flashing forward to Hera's going off. They heard the lightsabers in the water, and then Hera's going off to scan, and Carson's like, "Am I missing something?" I sent a meme. I think I sent a meme in our chat, but it's him asking, "Am I missing something?" And the droid just hands him Rebels in the DVD.
Yeah.
Like, that's so true. Kli'nah can attest. That's so true, isn't it?
So true.
But we get it confirmed. He's force sensitive, like a big shocker.
I like what Kli'nah just posted about fans watching episode 5. This is a Clone Wars. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
That was me
it's
too.
like maybe you should have done that in the first episode, not over halfway through. Tell us about the important parts we needed to know.
Yeah. It is kind of interesting how I still think it's weird how they said you don't have to watch Rebels for this to watch
Totally
this show.
need to watch Rebels.
You 1000% do.
Yeah.
I should have done a rewatch.
I felt like I probably should have too, but I pretty good memory, so. But
I know
yeah,
these characters well enough that I wasn't lost, but
yeah.
The music is. I'm just as I'm rewatching it right now. The music is really good.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job with the music in this show for sure. I don't think I've heard any Star Wars anything that doesn't have legit music.
Yeah. Also, I mean, we're kind of. What about like young Ahsoka? Do we like young Ahsoka?
Oh, I love her.
Because I think she's great.
She's amazing.
she did a really good job of emulating animated Ahsoka.
She's got more personality than Rosario does.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, she's likable. She's kind of serious, but she's still serious at the same time. Because these are like, this is like more serious stuff than the series ever got into that they're going through, like seeing dead bodies' reaction to that, and
Now-
This was a dark time.
Now,
but the series tends to be lighthearted, at least in the Clone Wars battle stuff. But
yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong again, but maybe Captain will know this or not. But isn't the scene where they're supposedly it looks like they're on Ryloth? Isn't this scene where she's consoling a trooper just a direct rip from an episode of Clone Wars where she's like mad that all these people got killed by following her orders or sad about it or something? Because I remember that verbatim. She said something to that effect in Clone Wars.
She did say something like that. I think it is definitely early Clone Wars when she was still fresh to being there.
Yeah.
I don't.
But I think
recall.
they've tweaked some dialogue
It's been a long
though.
time because I don't have access to
Yeah.
Clone Wars anymore.
I
Only
mean,
this.
it could
Well,
be.
yeah, you do.
Really?
Disney
Yeah,
Plus.
it's on Disney
I
Plus.
thought it was only season 7.
No, it's
No,
all the
it's all
whole.
of
It's the
them.
whole show.
Oh, did they get the rights?
Yeah,
to
they've had the whole
Yeah.
show on there for a while. Yeah,
I only saw season 7 for some reason, but
yeah, it's on there.
I'll have to rewatch it then. But yes, when she said those lines, I'm like, I've heard those lines before.
Yeah, I did too, and I was like, wait a second, it feels like it's a direct rip from the Clone Wars show, but maybe they've tweaked something. I don't
I
know.
think they
I don't
well,
remember
and it's also the line delivery and then the
Mhm.
lighting and the haze and the live action of it. It makes it feel a lot darker and more gritty and
Oh
serious.
yeah, the atmospheric feel of these scenes
Yeah.
is really good.
The haze is
Mhm.
awesome. Yeah.
It's very dreamy, but also feels grounded in the setting it's supposed to be in, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a inference of more outside the haze, and it doesn't feel sequestered. It feels like how it should as a dream sequence, dreamy.
Yeah, I felt
Yeah.
like the haze was just part of her vision, kind of focusing on just the immediate area around her.
Oh,
I
yeah.
kind of wonder if they added in the haze just so they could do like the shot. You know, they're like, we're gonna design this haze because I want this shot very specifically, and everybody's gonna lose their mind.
I mean, it works though.
It does. Wait, I mean, we all know what the shot is, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Visually, it works.
What shot are you all
Conceptually,
talking about?
The
the
Darth
one where
Vader
he's
swap.
walking off and he like flips to Darth Vader in the haze.
Briefly, and then comes back. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that was an awesome shot. But also the haze when she first landed, I was like, "Look, was she in the desert now?" And then all of a sudden, see a clone walk by out of the fog, and I was like, "What?" You know,
Yeah.
and I
That's
was
like-
like, "Where'd the Clone Wars?"
That's like the shot you put in your demo reel, and you're like, "Hire me, I did this shot."
Oh yeah.
But I
Like-
also
And then
really liked the moment where she was just sitting there
Hmm.
holding on to that clone trooper, and then he puts his hand on her, and nothing is said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But nothing needs to be said.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of moments that I like when Star Wars can slow down and be like that for a bit.
Mhm.
You know, and that's something like I hate to bring up season 3 of Mando, but that's something that was severely lacking in that season, is that slow down and feeling of like I guess humanity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think I could think of a better word, but you know the way she's just there for him. He's bandaged up around his head. He can't see anything. He's got a hurt arm, and just that touch and that feeling of like it's going to be okay. That
Mhm.
there's a lot there out of something so simple, and I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not through the episode yet, but I do want to ask a question. Dave Filoni did direct this.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeesh.
I saw that when the episode ended. I'm like, who directed this episode?
Yeah.
And then I saw Dave Filoni. I'm like, I'm not surprised.
So, knowing that he directed this episode, how are we feeling on his potential movie?
Pretty good, actually.
I'm still up in the air because, like I said, like we've mentioned, it looks phenomenal. The acting, especially in the flashbacks, really good.
Yeah.
Directing in terms of one episode of a TV show that's like a portion of everything else is so different.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, like, about that is that I think if he were to have complete control of the whole season, would it be different? I think so.
Which I mean, I think to some degree he does, though.
Yeah, he's created
him
it.
Him and Jon Favreau at least.
Yeah,
but I think it's a lot.
He's
him.
produced it.
Yeah.
It's just
one of those things when you
by the time you get to direct
to other people, they get to have their version of the vision that he had.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Kind of, but by the time you get to direct this like studioized of a TV show that he has produced, written, everything, and he's on set the whole time, it's a little bit hard to tweak anything or to put your kind of spin on it at this point. So I feel like directors
feel like
maybe moments hang on longer, but or shorter, or there's a different angle of a shot, but I feel like for the most part it's relatively set.
I disagree because I feel like there's some episodes where it just feels so inconsistent compared to the series that they're in. Like, look at Mando season 3; it was all over the place. Heck, we had that one episode we barely had the main characters, and we did like a 50-minute arc on like a background character from the first season that we ultimately went, what was the point? You know,
right? But those are all written beforehand, so like they know what they're getting into.
I don't know. I just
like it's all written at one time.
Yeah. Well, I keep kind of throwing us into tangents, so let's move on. We've got another little short snippet of Hera and Huyang trying to search for Ahsoka. Nothing really to write home about here. He does mention she does ask, like, what was Ahsoka's master like, and he's just like,
I don't know if we really need to talk about that.
Yeah,
don't worry about it.
I thought that was fun.
Not to throw us onto another tangent, but I like Hera. I like her. She's great. I think she's acted well. I think she looks fine. But like, she just doesn't pull me in and make me want to like keep watching the show just because of her. Like, I really like her. She's probably one of the characters I like the most, and I think is the best done. But she's not like a leading
not the
lady
focus of the show.
Yeah.
I watch Ahsoka for the plot.
Hera. Okay, so yeah, I have some thoughts on Hera too. I agree with everything Nicola said, or I agree with everything Kli'nah said. But except like it's hard for me because she kind of takes me out of the show because I know it's Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and I know her from other things, and I really like her, but seeing her, I know who she is, she takes me out of it. And sometimes have a problem with that depending on the actor. Sometimes I don't have to worry about it, but for some reason,
personal problem.
It probably is, but for some reason she takes me out because I know who she is and she doesn't look like Hera to me, even though she does a good job. And she makes the character feel like how she would act and stuff, but she doesn't look it, and I know who she is. So that's just my little tangent on that.
It doesn't bother me, so it sounds like a personal you issue.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me like her performance or anything. I guess it's just mostly that her character is there to serve sort of plot progression more than anything else. It's just like kind of that's my main thing.
Yeah.
And her Leku.
But then we get back into the Siege of Mandalore,
which is really cool.
Another kind of cool flashback.
I don't remember this one. Well, you weren't there.
Yeah. Which is kind of strange. See, this is where I get I don't understand what's going on. If this is a dream, then it makes a bit more sense because she's dreaming this stuff. If Anakin comes in and is like, I don't know this place, then she does. That would make a bit more sense. She's dreaming this up, and he wasn't there. But if this is Anakin and he is like trying to actually bestow wisdom on her, helping her through these helping her through these visions, helping her through these moments of her history, why would he pick this one? And if he didn't know it,
and how would he even know it if he didn't know it?
Yeah, but he sort of did know it because he sent her off to this battle. So it doesn't make much sense. So that's why I'm curious what is actually going on here. Unless it's just another Dave Filoni inconsistency in his lore. But
I don't think that. I think it's dream-ish.
Is this a bit of the Force tapping into Ahsoka? You know, like tapping into her memories. Picking relevant things that are bothering her.
But then would it be Anakin doing it, or is it really just the Force pretending to be Anakin to teach her something?
I think Force dream.
Yeah, so there's a theory by Star Wars Theory. I think he's the only one that I've heard say this theory so far. I could be wrong. But he came up with the theory that Anakin in these scenes is actually the father, which Kli'nah doesn't know anything about. But it's actually the father from Mortis. Which possibly, but even if he was the father from Mortis, I feel like he would know this battle if he knew the other ones.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Maybe he's just playing into Ahsoka's memory. Like, he knows that he wasn't there, and he's trying.
But he wouldn't be the other one either.
Yeah, I suppose. So, it's still confusing. This is what I mean. Like, it's
the whole lesson that he was trying to teach her was also vague. Confusing.
Yeah, it's like this whole thing is left way too much to interpretation. Like some can be left up to interpretation, but the whole plot of this episode being left up to interpretation is a little off, a little too much.
He never said. I think it could have used more speaking, more dialogue rather than showing an action, actually, which is the opposite of what it should usually be, but.
Yeah.
It's just that he repeats that kind of live or die sort of moral lesson, but I don't understand what that is supposed to insinuate.
I don't understand what he's trying to say between live or die.
It's now you might get mad at me, but it does feel like it's a shallow attempt at trying to be deep when it's really not that deep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's not that much intellectually going on than we're made to believe. And
that's a bit of the disappointing part of it, is that it could be just that shallow of you have to fight for your right to get back to the world.
And that's what I meant earlier when I said it feels hollow, even though it's really cool visuals. The messaging and the subject matter feels hollow, shallow.
Now picture this alternative. Even though the lightsaber's cool, the fighting's awesome. Picture a scene where they're talking together, and it actually is Anakin, and she's struggling with becoming a Jedi or wrestling with the idea of good and evil, and they're both discussing together about what that means, and he talks about coming back and how he was still worthy to be saved, and she can be saved. Like it's still no matter how much damage and how much wreckage you've caused, you can still come back. Look at me, I did. Like how beautiful
that would have been. Great.
That moment have been. Yeah.
I would equate that to something like Obi-Wan in ghost form coming to talk to Luke on Dagobah.
Absolutely.
Like something like that.
That's what I was hoping for. Yeah.
Doing that.
But this is some weird abstract weirdness.
And it would have, it would have felt very, in a way, necessary too. Mm-hmm. I think they could have gotten around that very necessary.
That could have been a more impactful, transformative character development than this vagueness that looks cool. But
like one of the biggest sins of the sequels was that they did not bring Force ghosts of Anakin and Obi-Wan and other people beforehand. It's like, where were these people that would have greatly influenced the events that were going on in the sequels? And that's why,
there's a
reason why Obi-Wan came back as ghost form to Luke, helped guide him.
There's a really powerful moment in Shadow of the Sith, the Disney canon book, where Anakin comes back to Luke as a Force ghost, and they have a whole discussion, and it's amazing. And that's kind of, I had that in my head as I was watching the intro to the scene, and so that's where I was like, and I know it's stupid, like what you want isn't what's right, but I can't help it. I wanted that.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I
have
think it
to.
would have been better.
I
Yeah.
mean, they could have dragged her out of the water and she was unconscious. She rests in the ship, and while she's resting, Anakin just Force Ghost appears to be like, "Hey, Snips,
Yeah.
you're having a bad time," you know. And then they could have had that discussion right there in the ship.
Yeah,
I'd still be cool if we never heard Snips again.
me too.
And especially Sky Guy.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't hear that.
Yeah. Snips is better than Sky Guy. Not by a lot, but by a little bit.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm curious because this is getting kind of into what we think is going to come up in the future, but there's rumors going around that we're going to get more Anakin in this show, and I don't know from what we've seen if that's really true or not now. Like, I feel like we've gotten the Anakin we're gonna get.
I think this is probably it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe she almost dies again when she meets Thrawn because he almost kills her, and then Anakin just does the same thing, and that's how they transport back to their normal galaxy.
That would be so lazy.
And after watching through this again and talking with it so far, I'm definitely on the not real Anakin in any way, shape, or form side. I don't.
Yeah,
I think it kind of is.
I don't think so, because
I don't think either of us can prove it, though.
And we can't prove it, but I am more towards, like, it's not actually Anakin either.
I just know whatever it is, it looks cool, but the plot is stupid. Because death means nothing in Star Wars. That's my motto. Death means nothing in Star Wars anymore.
Yeah.
Not for a while.
Hasn't for a while, yeah. I mean, but yeah, I mean, we've kind of fully covered this whole ordeal here.
Yeah.
What about the space whales at the end?
Yeah, so
that's the next thing.
Yeah, so she gets rescued by Hera, and she's just fine. A little comment when we see her without her headdress. When we see her without her headdress.
It's weird, isn't it?
So weird.
So the first shot I saw was she's laying down. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, for sure. There's something really weird with her Leku.
That looks fake.
It's out of focus, but I thought maybe just because it's out of focus, it's like just focused on her face. You know, maybe that's why it's looking weird.
It's a stripe of it.
It's there's no shadow under it. It's a fake Leku. There's something going on. It's not a prosthetic in the shot where she's laying don. At least not all of it.
Because it moves differently too.
Yeah, there's no shadow where shadows should be on her blazer or whatever.
Man, that's an oversight.
Yeah, I just noticed that. That's what threw me off. I'm like, there's no shadow under this. It just looks like her normal shadows of her cloak. There's no shadow of her Leku.
The wide shot seems real.
Yeah, the wide shot I think is real. At least it looks better than the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they had to retake that one shot of her lying down, and it was after they already got rid of this version.
Oh, I'm sure it's a reshoot thing.
Yeah. It could be. It's just that shot was the most uncanny valley of Ahsoka I think I've ever seen, because it almost looked like a Photoshop mask.
Man,
feather.
I'm seeing it. Maybe it is in the wide shots too, but I'm seeing the close-ups. Even when she's standing too, I think it's still CG.
That's weird.
Maybe this
is better there, though.
I think it has to do with the fact that
maybe the scene was just a later addition.
They don't have the headband to cover the transition from her real face to prosthetic.
It's
I think they CGI'd it there. Because notice that after she walks out of the ship, she has the headband back on.
Yeah, and it looks good. It looks like it's the prosthetic.
That's my guess, is that they CGI'd the scene without the headband because the makeup would have maybe
you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe they CGI'd the headband out instead of not having it wearing or something.
Ooh, that's possible too, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Anyway, that was a little tangent, but a neat little thing I noticed when I first watched it. Like, whoa, that set looks weird. But
Ahsoka the White.
Yeah, Ahsoka the White. Frick. Frick you, Dave. but this whole thing is like she pulls out all the powers in this last few minutes of this episode, or last 20 or 15 or however long, because she pulls out the same power. Oh frick, what's his name? He's from the Jedi Fallen Order games. Cal Kestis pulls out the same power Cal Kestis is known for. He's like, I don't remember what it's called, but it's where you can touch something and view whoever imprinted their little history on it. And so she's using that power to find out what happened with Sabine.
She just has everyone's powers now.
And then
when she did that, I was like, since when can you do that with the Force?
Yeah.
Super quick note, from the time she does wake up, this is when I really think she's great in general. Like her performance is really nice.
She feels a lot more like Ahsoka for sure, I think. And I'm guessing now that was intentional, and I'm kind of disappointed with it. But like when it comes to like the power she's using, she's using that power that Cal has to find out what happened to Sabine, and then when she's talking to the whales, and here in a second, she's using the same power Ezra had to talk to the animals.
Yep.
So it's wild. Like she's almost like God mode now.
Well, didn't you watch the episode? Anakin finished your training.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, live or die. That's the last thing you needed to learn.
I guess she's gonna live with all the powers of a Force God.
I am all the Jedi.
Oh God, don't get me started on Rey.
Well, how do we think about the New Republic here? Mon Mothma's
They're kind of stupid.
Mon Mothma's kind of losing her marbles a little bit.
Mon Mothma's bae, though.
Well, it's because they have to follow what the Senate rules or whatever their little committee rules, and she's
the chancellor now. Yeah,
they're showing that the Republic just went right back to being corrupt, like they did before the Clone Wars, and they basically learned nothing.
Yeah, they basically just reestablished the old system.
I'll disagree with it morally, but she tells me to vote for something, I'm gonna vote for it. I'll do whatever Mon Mothma tells me to do. That's Mama Mothma. You know?
There's a lot of mamas in this episode, huh?
Yeah. Hera tells me to do something. Mon Mothma tells me to do something. You know, whatever. Gotta do it.
Sabine's not in this episode.
No, not this episode. In the show.
Purrgil looks really good.
Oh yeah. So,
really, really great.
Yeah, so she's like, she figures out, oh, maybe we can just use the Purrgil to get there. Well, okay, that's smart, because, that's where they're supposed to be going, I guess, from here.
Their migration pattern.
It was established early on in the episode that this was the common point for the space bills that would hyperspace between the two galaxies. It was a known thing.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a smoking gun, like you can't show a gun and not have it go off. It's kind of like you can't show the Purrgil early on in the season and not have them be used for something.
This is a very quick tangent. My wife watched this episode with me, and she did not like the Purrgil. She's like, I don't like the legs.
I like them. I think they're cute.
So my brother watched this episode. It's the first episode he actually watched in full before he watched a YouTube video about it. And he liked the Purrgil as well, or he not as well, but he liked the Purrgil, but he had an issue with it as well because it looks almost exactly like the star whales from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It has the same.
They don't have with like tentacles, though.
They do. He showed me a picture.
Oh.
Let me.
Not a Doctor Who guy, so I wouldn't.
Right here. This whhale here has the tentacles.
Okay, but their tentacles are way longer than
but the only thing really that's different design-wise is the little... Well, the shell's part of the city that's on top of it. Is this little anglerfish thing that's on top. But these still have tentacles on their heads.
Yeah.
So it is
But those
very
are also
similar.
Called space whales.
Star whales.
Star whales.
And these are...
But it's basically a space whale.
Yeah, same with these. But this is a very same kind of look.
Yeah.
I really like this scene a lot.
Oh, I do too.
I think it's really... It's majestic and magical and...
It's
very
really
fantasy.
cool to see how big they are compared to the Republic ships.
Yeah.
Especially the big one that she's riding in. It's like just as big.
We get some cool shots of the Ghost ship too, and we haven't.
Mhm.
There's a few of those in the series, but I feel like it hasn't been highlighted a ton. And I like the Ghost. I think it's a cool ship.
Yeah. I always like the Ghost. It's a good ship design.
Yeah, her stepping out on the edge of the ship. I like that we're seeing more of that. It's kind of fun. And her performance in all these is great too. I just love her slightly more optimistic. Feels so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ahsoka again.
Yeah. I feel like this episode masked its plot with good visuals and great acting
and just good vibes.
And good vibes, cinematography, all that good stuff. But yeah, like we kind of said, beating a dead horse at this point, the plot's just kind of mid.
Yeah.
But and then they blast off.
I like her thought. He's like, "How do you know?" And she's like, "I don't."
And the droid's like, "What?"
I like the droid's reaction, whether or not she I don't know how I feel about her not knowing where they're going. Like, it's better than not going anywhere. I'm like, is it really?
that interaction felt very Star Wars to me, though. It felt very Han and C-3PO, or very, whatever. Just kind of.
Yeah.
So I dug it.
But I was also like, I don't know. You could stay here and be safe-ish and wait for them to come back, or you could blast off to Lord knows where.
Yeah.
They could go to a completely different galaxy, hang out with the Yuuzhan Vong, get eaten. Who knows?
Yeah.
But no, I just thought that was kind of interesting and weird. But yeah, so
that's kind of it.
We're at the end. Yeah. So let's go through our closing thoughts and ratings. I'll go last again. So let's start with Kli'nah.
I mean, I like this one better than the last one. I'm gonna give this episode, if it was just this episode, like an 8, because I think my last ones have been like 7.5s. So definitely like this one better. But as a whole on this series, I'm just not feeling it. I feel like I don't care about any of the characters. They haven't made me want to care about them because they're so boring.
And you don't have any real.
I have no attachments to them. Yeah.
That's a real
it's just not interesting enough, and the characters aren't captivating me, and it doesn't make me want to keep coming back to watch it. Like, if we weren't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't finish the series. I'd probably
I think that's a side of Rebels
through it and just
too.
see the cool parts that I like. Because
to be fair, I'd only watch it in the beginning with because of the podcast, but at least I'm somewhat enjoying it now. I actually didn't no desire to watch it.
Same.
Or this would be something that I would end up putting on in the background while I'm doing something else to say I watched it, but really I'm only half watching it. Just so I can kind of know what happened.
I'm glad I get to make you watch it with me.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead with you, Cap.
Oy, I'm supposed to give a number, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Closing thoughts and the rating.
Okay, so closing thoughts. I really enjoyed the episode, especially in comparison to the ones before it. It definitely grabbed me with the nostalgia, but I tried to be still try to be objective about it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that it's hard to be hard on it for the fact that it's so vague in regards to that realm, the world between worlds. We just really don't know what is capable within that realm. We don't know if it's just a realm emulating Anakin to try to help her. We don't know if it's actually Anakin. We don't know if it's Ahsoka just flipping dreaming. We really don't know. And that kind of makes it hard to be hard on it for bad writing or whatever, because this is not the real world. This is the Star Wars world, and unfortunately this is something we don't know a whole lot about. So in some ways, it does feel like it was a twist to try to bring Hayden Christensen back because, probably a lot of people like me who are not particularly thrilled with the Disney content, really don't care about it. So what they do, well, let's bring back one of your favorite characters from your childhood. And it's like, oh, yeah, you kind of got me. Now, to be fair, if they had done Force Ghost with him in the past, other ways, that would have been definitely an easy way of doing it and be proper because it's established and we can compare that. Especially if he doesn't interact and mess with the world. As long as he just sits there and kind of does what Obi-Wan did for Luke, I would have really enjoyed that, and it'd been a lot easier to give a high rating on this episode if that was the case. But it almost feels a bit of a nostalgia bait to me at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So this makes it really hard. So I do think my initial I think when the series started, I kind of made a guess that we wouldn't see Thrawn until episode 6. This is episode 5. We still haven't seen Thrawn, and that might actually play out. We might see Thrawn next week.
Yeah, maybe.
So I'm kind of curious if my original prediction is correct. But overall, I enjoyed this episode. Love seeing Hayden back. Love seeing the Clone Wars again. Love live-action Clone Troopers. I liked some of those touching moments that we had, especially in the first battle when Ahsoka was just there with the Clone Trooper. I do think some of the circumstances do feel a bit stretched, so I can't give this a perfect score. But I don't think there was anything hugely wrong with it. I think we did talk about that one CGI bit potentially being an issue. I'm gonna give it a 9. I know that's a
whoa.
I think oh, that's the problem. I have nothing to base most of this episode on. I don't know if what they did at the in that Force realm is is that good or not. So because it's vague, I'm not giving it a perfect score because I don't. But at the same time, Force Ghosts were kind of vague at one point when they first came out. So, and everybody liked that then. So, as of right now, it's a 9. Maybe retroactively that could be changed based off what we know about the world between worlds. But I enjoyed it. I didn't see anything majorly wrong with this episode, and I definitely liked it way more than the previous episodes. I could have easily slept through the first 4, but I definitely was not through this one. I was sick this week. So.
That's funny.
What?
He said he didn't sleep through this one.
Because
I fell asleep at the end the first time we watched it through.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When the Purgle came out, I was nodding off.
Jeez. Alright. Tykoth.
Yeah, I think that this is simultaneously the best that the series has ever been and the most wasted potential of the series. And so I'm so conflicted in the same way that Captain is when rating it, because I so enjoyed everything appearing on screen, but I just wanted more philosophy. I wanted more discussion. I just wish that they went less vague. I wish they went with some moral ground, because I really don't know what she took from that in order to change and become happy. And that could be explained more later, but I would be surprised if that happened. I'd be surprised if we had more Anakin or any more lessons from that. It feels like we're done, and I'll eat my words if next episode comes around and we're getting Force Ghost, and that's whatever. But as of
while they're in
now,
hyperspace inside the whale, Anakin's talking to them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, which would also be really weird. So I'm just gonna go 8.
Interesting. Okay. So, for me. Whew, oh boy. My first initial viewing, I had a grin as wide as a mile every time, Ahsoka and Anakin were on the screen. It was really neat, and I hate Clone Wars, like I've mentioned before. But it was still just really cool to see that kind of thing in live action, and to see Hayden again, And I don't agree or think that any of this is canon or Ahsoka was ever canon, but their dynamic and their chemistry,
Relationship.
yeah, the relationship and chemistry on screen in this episode just felt really good, natural. The younger Ahsoka and him, and all that, but the more we've talked about it, and kind of discussed the whole backstory stuff going on, I've realized just how nostalgia baity it really is, because it does feel, and I kind of noticed this in my second viewing as well when I watched it with Kli'nah, that it just felt like I didn't understand what was trying to be conveyed at all. But I mean, maybe Dave is on this other level of genius I'm just not privy to, but I doubt it. And it just feels really shallow, like I've said, and it's just super kind of, member berry-ish, nostalgia baity, that kind of stuff. Which I was hoping it wouldn't, and it would further the plot. And it's supposed to have been like this whole giant transitional moment for Ahsoka. Like, it feels like it's supposed to have been more to her than it really feels in the episode. It's like almost anticlimactic in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's a possibility that the rumors of this big sequence of her fighting Anakin on Mustafar was cut, because that was a rumor that's been reported on by credible sources.
You really need to stop looking into leaks when you're trying to review a
actual
show.
thing. No, probably not. Anyway, so long-winded final thoughts concluding. I originally was going to give it an 8, but with a second viewing and this discussion, I think I'm going to bump it back down to 7.5, which is still on par with last week's, I believe. It's still higher up there on the totem pole for this series, and maybe we'll get better episodes that I might move up to an 8, but this was the closest one to an 8, but then it just kind of fell slightly short of that, so I'm going to stick with 7.5. So I'm very interested, it's very curious everyone else's ratings. I'm the lowest rating this week.
I'm not surprised.
I will say, if we don't get Thrawn next week, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I'm not. I have a feeling he could show up. I'm not going to be surprised if he shows up later in the series. Like,
I'm betting finale.
Yeah.
I'm going to be so sad.
I think he'll show up next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was only finale.
I will say
that would just be a thing. They would dangle that carrot through the entire season, right? Thrawn's gonna show up, just so we can get you to watch the whole season.
Yeah,
and then when you get to the end, you tell your friends you just need to watch the finale. Don't waste your time with the show.
Yeah, I will say we have seen everything except for that Thrawn clip from the trailers so far.
Yep.
So that's the only thing left from the trailers that we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're gonna see it though. I think my literal prediction is that it won't be till the last scene of the finale.
Yeah. We only have 3 more weeks of this. Yeah. And then there's nothing on the release schedule, as far as I'm aware, that's coming out soon for this year now. Because
nothing else this year. Andor 2 has a release date, doesn't it?
Maybe, but it got delayed because of the strikes.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's gonna delay everything. So
yeah,
we won't get anything for probably a long time.
Originally, Skeleton Crew was supposed to come out this year, I think, but I think that's not on the schedule anymore.
Yeah, I think we're not gonna see content for a while until that's resolved.
So we might be on hiatus for a while.
Yeah.
I have some other content.
Unless Captain finally wants to watch Andor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can run through it.
Everyone's like, Captain, watch Andor.
You won't want to stop.
Yeah, once you watch the first episode, you're like,
And especially since you don't have to wait week to week, it's such a good binge.
Hmm.
It'd be fun.
I'm really curious his opinions on Andor.
Man,
Very
I think
curious.
I just from all your technical like how you view plot and how you view motivations, I can't imagine you not liking it.
Yeah,
I would be
I'd
so
be kind of
surprised.
surprised. I would be kind of surprised.
And
Yeah,
how you love like
I
machinery and
imagine-
engineering and like seeing even like the way that the station and the heist and the like the more it's more like grounded ship stuff. It's not very cartoony at all.
Hmm.
Yeah, I imagine I would. It's just that Disney has just killed my like motivation to watch their content. So
Well, we'll set up a schedule for Andor review, and then you have to have it all watched by then.
Yes.
I'm
If
not
you like
binge
Mandalorian
watching
season
the whole
2,
thing. I'll watch it once a week.
if you like
Oh.
Mando season 2, it's nothing to Andor.
Yeah.
And
Baby
I really
shit,
wish we
Andor.
had started this when Mando season 1 dropped because that was so fun to watch.
Yeah,
Same
I
with
was
season
in.
2.
I was.
That
in
was a really
Japan
high
when
time for Star Wars in general. Like that was a
Yeah. Well, that was
a
back
good
when
moment.
like it gave us hope that hey, maybe Disney can make good Star Wars content.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then they've kind of fallen
It's
apart.
the shows have been so hit or miss.
But
Yeah.
the best time of
Mostly
Star
missed.
Wars to be a fan ever was in between episodes 2 and 3. And you had
Yes.
that barrage of video games and
Oh, yeah.
barrage of books and
Oh, yeah.
the hype to episode 3 was so
Mhm.
immense. Like that's the great. Sorry, none of this.
That
is
was
on
like the
podcast.
conclusion of like I remember being that kid going, I want to know how Palpatine turned a republic into an empire. I actually cared
Yeah.
about the politics. I was so engrossed with that because I was like,
Yeah, I was too. I liked it.
because back when even the prequels before they existed, I remember my parents making me watch the OT, and I remember loving it, and then also going, how does someone come up with such an evil empire? If it's so an evil thing, how did he come about in the first place? So,
Right.
Yeah, and every episode of the prequels that came out, like I loved. Like
Gave it
the first one
context.
established everything, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, this is our starting point. So, yeah, really enjoyed all that stuff.
I watched. I was 5 years old when Phantom Menace came out, and I just couldn't believe that there were like more Jedi. I thought that was like the coolest
Aw.
thing. I was like, because I just loved the Jedi and just basically Luke, and that's it.
Mhm.
and I saw the council. I'm like, oh my god, this is the coolest
I
thing
just couldn't
I've
believe
ever
there was another
That's
Star
so
Wars movie.
And then I
Yes.
got real. I also remember being so scared of Darth Maul. Like even in the trailers, like Darth Maul came out, and I like wanted to leave the theater. I like.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
just-
I watched that in theaters. I watched the one I remember watching in theaters was Revenge of the Sith, but I might have seen Attack of the Clones in theaters.
I saw all 3 of those prequels in theaters. Oh man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I did see the 3D remake or re-release of Phantom Menace in theaters.
And I did too. And everyone was so hype over Phantom Menace, like for the first week. Like there really wasn't the heavy critiques quite yet.
Yeah.
And so it was just like all hype. It was just like, this is the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. Nobody disagrees. That was incredible. Where's the ticket line? Let's go again. Like
Mhm.
the pod rate, like people were just like losing their mind over the pod race. Like this is the coolest stuff I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I remember my dad when he came out of that theater and he's like, that double-bladed lightsaber is the coolest thing. Like, genius film.
Yeah, when he stands there, ignites one, then the other, and you just go, oh.
Yeah. Don't you wish you could go back and experience that scene for the first time?
Oh yeah.
With Duel of the Fates playing in the background. And
Well, after what Disney's done, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for us today. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode, and we will see you next week for episode 6. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.